There are many features that indicate that my documentary fits into many of the conventional aspects of a wildlife documentary. You can clearly see this via looking into the other documentaries within the same genre. For instance, I decided to use a voice of God technique for the beginning section of my documentary. The reason for doing this is in order to help the audience understand the scene via a descriptive narrative, which can also help keep the audience engaged. For this, I also used a male voice rather than a female voice. This again was to fit with the convention of a wildlife documentary, as it's quite rare to have a female voiceover. Due to my documentary being focused on bears, I had to make sure that the audience knew where I was. In order for me to do this, I mentioned the location that I was filming whilst doing the voice of God technique. This allowed the audience to understand where I am and help them not feel lost within the documentary. I used a panning shot of the local wood, the reason for this being that Canada is renowned for its vast forests, and I felt that it would be a good visual aid in order to help show where I was in this documentary. One thing that I felt broke the conventions of a wildlife documentary was the use of stock footage. The majority of the time, wildlife documentaries don't use stock footage. The reason for this is that they're trying to depict how an animal is, and what better way to do this than via recording your own footage to give your own representation of that animal. However, I noticed that some documentaries, whether that be TV documentaries or film documentaries, still used stock footage. Normally, when it comes to using stock footage, the documentary is trying to show off some past encounter in order to help challenge or enforce a representation. The stock footage that I used was in order to help show how bad poaching was and how horrible it is. I found that it was going to help set the scene of my documentary, which focused most on helping to protect bears within the area. When combining my documentary with my auxiliary tasks, I believe that they worked well together. For instance, I decided to have this documentary aimed at the people that would watch the History Channel. The reason for this is that the History Channel has a huge American audience. This I felt would work in my favour, due to a vast majority of bear-related organisations are predominantly American. So via this, I decided to aim it towards Americans, or people that are into American culture and animals. When it comes to my radio advert, I also decided to do the voiceover. The reason for this is due to also doing the voiceover for my own documentary. This was then able to be linked together, so I was in essence promoting my own documentary as some form of business campaign. This allowed me to take full control of exactly what was going to be said and how it was going to be said. When it came to my audience feedback, I noticed that there was one negative point that seemed to keep cropping up, which was the quality of the audio. If I could do this project again, I would definitely have used a proper microphone rather than one that was just built into my laptop. When it came to the positive feedback, I noticed that there were several things that seemed to keep cropping up. One of these being was the way that I had linked my own footage with the stock footage, and how even though the stock footage had shown snow and a winter environment, and then my own footage hadn't, my narration had made it easy to follow and easy to understand. Another section of positive feedback that kept popping up was the use of camera shots and angles. The way I had started off with a close-up of some fur and then zoomed out to show the bear expert talking. This allowed the audience to understand everything more clearly by showing them the small object right from the beginning. Throughout the construction, research, planning and evaluation stages, I used a number of different media technologies. For the construction stage, such as filming, I used a very basic Canon video recorder. The reason for this was because it was very easy to obtain via school and was also very basic and easy to use. This allowed me to just get stuck in with filming and not worry about setting up the camera right or having to edit any of the settings. For my voiceover, I ended up using a program called Camtasia Studio 7 and using my built-in microphone within my PC. If I was going to do this again, I would use a different type of microphone to make sure that I sounded clearer and also more professional, due to this one having some slight feedback. When it came to editing my project, I used a software called Serif Movie Plus 5. The reason for using this instead of a program such as iMovie was because it allowed me to edit my work at home and at school, rather than just constricting myself to just doing it at school due to iMovie only working on the Macs. Another reason I chose Serif Movie Plus 5 was because, due to using iMovie last year with my other media project, I stumbled across a couple of problems when it came to editing the audio devices. When it came to research and planning, essentially the only technology I needed for this part of the coursework was the internet and the scanner. When it came to research, I immediately wanted to check out on the internet other wildlife documentaries in order to help know what was needed in order to fit into the certain conventions, such as voiceovers, panning and establishing shots, and interviews. Another huge aspect of my planning side was a website called Blogspot. Throughout my project, any work that I would do would be uploaded onto this site in order to help show my development throughout my project. The scanner was used due to hand drawing a storyboard. I was then able to upload the images onto Blogspot via scanning them into the computer.